Hopefully this time it'll work. I like to read. I love reading. Richard Dawkins, The Ancestor's Tale. It's a very good book. Read it. I shouldn't lie because I didn't read it yet. I have read, however, The God Delusion. This, actually, I have about 3 books, Richard Dawkins books, maybe 4. I have this one, The Ancestor's Tale, which I'm looking forward to reading. I heard it's a very good book. I like books on science and biology and evolution and things like that. I also like religious books. I don't agree with everything Richard Dawkins says. I'm not an atheist, but I do read his stuff. And I read a lot of books written by people who are atheists, who will, this one book written by a guy named George Smith. Well, anyway, that's beside the point. Here's The God Delusion. I recommend this book to everybody, even if you believe in God. And you don't be afraid. You need to question things, and you need to look at this and debate things. And if you're going to get into a discussion, an intelligent discussion, you need to read this and other books. I'm probably going to read Christopher Hitchens' book and also Sam Harris and the other people. And see what happens. Who knows? I might change my mind. I always like to throw that out there because some people might think, well, he might change his mind. But nobody knows what they're going to believe tomorrow. So, Wayne Dyer, he's my favorite writer. Really my favorite writer because I actually read a lot of his books and I'm going to go see him. Adam Smith. I haven't read this book yet, but Adam Smith was a big friend of David Hume, who I have read. I've read David Hume, and I've even been to David Hume's tomb. As a matter of fact, if you go on my channel, you'll see there's a video I have where I was at David Hume's tomb. I've read Sigmund Freud, which I like Freud a lot. I went to Freud's house in London, as a matter of fact. Immanuel, and I'm going to pronounce it the way most people pronounce it, Immanuel Kant, the philosopher who's had a big influence on people, and I love his writings. The book called A Critique of Pure Reason is a very difficult book to read. It's very complicated and hard to read, but this is the basic writings of Immanuel Kant, or Kant, depending on how you want to pronounce it. Octavio Paz. Poetry. I love to read poetry. He's one of my favorite poets, and I do read this. It's in both Spanish and English. I like these books to have the Spanish and the English, and I love to read the poems in both Spanish and English. I spend more time reading the poems in Spanish than in English. I'm not going to go over everything. I have Pablo Neruda. Okay. So Casper, I do read Pablo Neruda. Just saying that so I know, I do read him. W.H. Auden. Love this. I love poetry. I'm a big poetry person. I love Walt Whitman. And Robert Frost is one of my favorites. He is one of my favorites. I love this guy, Robert Frost. I love all these different books. I'm just going over my list of things. The Catcher in the Rye. I remember I read this in high school. And I love this book. Great book. I don't think they could ever make a movie out of it, but one day I bet you somebody's going to do it. Somebody's going to make a movie out of that. And consider all the controversy with that book because, the thing with Hinckley and the other people, Hinckley and the one who shot John Lennon, Mark David Chapman. Why do assassins always have 3 names? Anyway, the thing is that he wrote that. I mean, he didn't write it. He had a copy of it, whether he didn't write it. But, those people seem to have been the influence, although I don't think you can blame the book for those people's actions. I don't even know how to pronounce Schopenhauer's last name, but Schopenhauer. Arthur Schopenhauer. Or Schopenhauer or Schopenhauer. I never really knew. But I haven't read him, actually. I have this book, but I haven't read it. I'm going to read it. I have there's some philosophers I've read, and some I don't agree with. You know what has been funny? I will pick up a book that has a view that's opposite of what I agree with, just to see what that person says, instead of just saying, well, I don't agree with that person. How could you disagree if you haven't read the person? Ayn Rand. I've read this. I actually have read this. The Virtue of Selfishness. I don't agree that selfishness is a virtue. I'm sorry. I've read the book. I understand her point of view, but I just don't go with. I don't get with that. Some people might. Here's another one of my favorite writers of all time. And you know, this book, actually, when I bought this book, it's rather expensive. It's paperback, and this book cost me $55 when I first bought it. Now you have to pay like $85 for it, so it's like almost a collector's item. Motivation and Personality. This is the book by Abraham Maslow. The best one, though, the one I actually like the most, is called The Further Reaches of Human Nature. Now, if you get that book and read it, that is a great book. That is a great book. It talks about human potential and things like that. And for those people who are atheists, and I didn't know this, Abraham Maslow was an atheist. But the funny thing is he talks about, religion in a very positive way, and spirituality and things like that. So that's an interesting thing. David Hume, of course. J. Krishnamurti. I haven't read. I've read little bits and pieces of stuff. I haven't read the book all the way through, but he's interesting. I've seen. They actually have some videos with him talking on YouTube. Of course, Federico Garcia Lorca. I'm just going on my whole list because I'm trying to get all stuff off my little desk right here. Jean-Paul Sartre. You see a picture of him. I like that. It's a nice picture, isn't it? I don't know if you can get it all on there, but that's an interesting picture of him. And I visited his grave. I'm always talking about people who I visited, like as if I went to see them and say, "Hey, Jean-Paul, how you doing?" Jean-Paul. I'm actually not pronouncing that correctly because it's not Jean, it's Jean-Paul Sartre. But you got to say it the right way. Anyway, I just had to say that like that. And I know people are going to make fun of that. Go ahead and have just knock yourself out. Have fun laughing at me. This is Carl Jung. I love his writings. This is called The Answer to Job, or Answer to Job, not without a the at the beginning of it. But I also have the book called Synchronicity. Everybody's got to get that episode. The Police made an album called Synchronicity. But Carl Jung actually coined this expression synchronicity, which has to do with meaningful coincidences. This other book, which is not written by this person, but it's about Stanley Milgram. Milgram, though his writings didn't influence me, but I remember seeing this video, this documentary, I guess, about that famous experiment he did at Yale. And that got me to thinking about, people obey authority without questioning it. That had a big influence on me, Stanley Milgram's work. And I've read a lot about Milgram. Let's see, who else do I got? I think I looked at every book that I've been looking at lately. And I have quite a few other books. I have a lot of books. I have books and books and books and books and books. A lot of people that I like to read. And I think that people should read. And read different points of view. Don't just pick up books that you agree with. Because a lot of people do that. They'll go, this person is saying something I agree with, and this person is saying, and then things you don't agree with, you avoid it. No. I'm the kind of person, I want to see all the views. If I don't agree with it, I'm going to pick up a book about it so I can read about it. So I can understand. That's why I don't debate, because some people have good points, even things I don't agree with. I can understand, for example, some of the things Ayn Rand says. Some of the stuff she says makes sense, but overall, I actually don't agree. But I think about, something Maslow said, one of the quotes. I always love what he said. This thing he says. He says, he was talking about psychologists, and other theories and different things. He said, read them for the facts, not the conclusions. And that's true, about anything. It doesn't even have to be about psychology. It could be anything. Read it for the facts, not the conclusions, because the conclusions are your own. Those are the things you have to reach on your own. Nobody can reach the conclusions for you. You have to think. That requires using this up here. Think for yourself. And read. Learn. And it's a lot of fun. And you enjoy doing things like that. And get out in the world and do things. Visit places. Visit people, talk with people, talk with the types of people you never thought about talking with, people from different ethnicities, different races, different religions, and try to find out what they really think. Because one thing I do not like is when people just assume things about other people. We figure that, okay, this person's from this ethnicity or from this race, and this is how they think. And you never really interact with people. I mean, sometimes you can work with people for 30, 40 years, but you never really talk with them and really have a real, genuine conversation. I think that's important. Learn something. And that's all I have to say.